On TV, on radio, and on your smartphone. This is TalkTV.
Tonight on Piers Morgan Uncensored, a global TV exclusive. She's the woman who took Prince Harry's virginity behind a countryside pub. Sasha Walpole kept Harry's secret for 21 years and always intended to. But he told his truth about it in his memoir. So tonight, Sasha tells me hers.
From London, this is Piers Morgan Uncensored.
Well, good evening from London. Welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Prince Harry has turned his back on a family and a nation that adored him. He was a lovable rogue whose childhood heartbreak united the country in goodwill. We're all very proud of him as he served in the British Army. We cheered his wedding, celebrated the glamorous biracial future of the new monarchy. He had it all, Harry, but he's burned most of it to the ground, charged by bitterness and resentment. He's waged war on his family by selling the lurid story of his private life to a media industry he says he hates for invading his private life. And that's at the heart of why I think the public here have grown a bit tired of Harry. They view him as a hypocrite. He spews his truth to the highest bidders whilst repeatedly demanding privacy. He rails against his family for sharing details of their conversations while exposing family secrets and family feuds in books and interviews for millions of dollars. He's reinvented himself as a be kind feminist and mental health campaigner while showing blatant disregard for anyone other than himself. Nothing better sums it up than his decision to tell the story of losing his virginity in his memoir Spare.
I suspected he was referring to my recent loss of virginity. Inglorious episode with an older woman. She liked horses quite a lot and treated me not unlike a young stallion. Quick ride, after which she'd smack my rump and sent me off to graze. Among the many things about it that were wrong, it happened in a grassy field behind a busy pub.
Well, that story triggered an inevitable avalanche of speculation. Actress Liz Hurley had to deny reports it was her, as did the chief executive of Cotswold Airport, Susanna Harvey, and his former lover, Catherine Omanay, and polo coach Emma Tomlinson. Among others, just last weekend, the actor Rupert Everett said he knew who it was, and he thought it had happened at a ski chalet. Well, Harry knew that he'd ignited fevered conjecture, but still chose to unpin that grenade and walk away. And that unfair speculation about innocent people is why Sasha Walpole has now felt obliged to tell her story. She kept Harry's secret for 21 years, but he left her with no choice. For all his bleating about privacy, Harry simply didn't bother to worry about hers. He didn't think about how writing in florid detail about losing his virginity might upset Sasha, her children, her husband, her parents, her friends. Sasha, on the other hand, has treated Harry with unwavering respect. She'd have taken the story to the grave if he'd allowed her to. She could have sold her story at any time in the last 2 decades as he's sold his. But she chose not to. She behaved with decency, discretion and duty, which ironically are the very qualities we expect of our royals. The late Queen did that so masterfully. King Charles does it too. So did Prince William, Princess Kate. Harry is the rogue royal, but not quite so lovable anymore. We now know that the older woman, Sasha, is actually younger than his wife, Meghan Markle. She speaks affectionately about Harry, even now, and recalls humble tales of youthful frolics in rural pubs that will be familiar to millions of British people. She drives 3-ton diggers, works on Guardian patios, and leads an honest life with her family in Wiltshire. One that's pretty private, actually, and certainly worlds away from a luxury Californian pedestal from which the privacy-preaching prince shoots his poisoned darts back at his family in Britain. But it's actually people like Sasha Walpole who represent the very best of British values. Sadly, I'm not so sure that can be said about Harry anymore. Well, Sasha Walpole joins me now.
Hi.
A week ago, I'd never heard of you.
No, I know.
Nor did anybody else apart from your family and friends. And now you're like this globally known person, and actually, through no fault of your own or desire to be publicly known at all.
No, I know it's been a bit of a whirlwind week, and hopefully it's a means to an end and I can get back to normality, go back to work, drive my digger, hide back under my rock.
How do you feel about the way this has all exploded in your life?
Very surreal, still doesn't seem real. Don't know, kind of shocked really. I didn't think that it would hit the headlines like it did. I mean, there's a lot of worse stuff going on in the world right now that probably needs more of a focus. Obviously, we have the earthquake and a few other things going on, the war in Ukraine. But yeah, I never thought it would happen like it has.
I mean, it's been a fascinating thing to watch unfurl because I used to run national newspapers, so I knew exactly what would happen. The moment Harry put in this book the details of how he lost his virginity to an older woman in a field behind the back of a pub, I just thought, well, I know what's happening now. Every single news desk in Fleet Street and every TV network, they're all sending people off to try and find this poor woman who has probably never said a word about this and now is going to be on the front page of papers from here to America, to China, to Timbuktu.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I had a bit of a run-in with the paparazzi back in 2001, so I kind of knew how it can turn out. And at first I was a bit like, no, just hide, it'll be fine, it'll go away, like I have done, you know, in the past. And then suddenly you realise that it's getting closer, your world's getting smaller, a lot more people are talking about it. You know, friends from back home are getting questioned, accused, and I was just like, do you know what? The way to stop it is just come forward and say it's me, and then hopefully, no sooner it's come out, it will go, and I can carry on with my little life.
When was the first moment that you knew that you were in this book?
When my friend sent me a screenshot of a comment via WhatsApp, and I was just sat on my sofa watching telly, and yeah, I kind of didn't quite know what to do about it.
Were you shocked? Were you?
I was,
a
yeah.
bit scared about what may happen to you? Or?
Disbelief. He went into so much detail because then it's obvious who it was. So for me, that was like a huge thing because then suddenly I was like, oh no, everyone's going to know. And then, yeah, next day all the messages started
I'm trying to
in.
imagine what it must be like when we played the clip of Harry. I don't know if we can play it again, but we played the clip of Harry talking about this. I just want to sort of look at you as you listen to this because I'm trying to imagine what it must be like to have been you when he came out with this, not just in written word, but also in spoken word. This is a guy who's sixth in line or fifth in line to the throne of this country, talking about losing his virginity to you.
Yeah.
Sasha Walpole, let's take a listen.
I suspected he was referring to my recent loss of virginity. Inglorious episode with an older woman. She liked horses quite a lot and treated me not unlike a young stallion. Quick ride, after which she'd smack my rump and sent me off to graze. Among the many things about it that were wrong, it happened in a grassy field behind a busy pub.
What did you feel when you heard this?
I don't really know. I can see the humour side of the horse because obviously...
You were a groom at the time at Highgrove?
Yeah, I was a groom. Well, not at the time, but I was a groom. I'd left Highgrove by the time this had happened.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know, I could see the funny side to it. You know, we were two friends, and for me, I still see him as Harry. I still see him as a friend that I used to hang out with down the pub, you know, go and watch the polo with, and yeah, it was just...
We're seeing pictures of you both there with some other friends clowning around and stuff. I mean, I suppose that my response to it when I first heard about this was, I thought it was breathtaking. I've got to be honest, breathtakingly hypocritical of someone who goes on and on about privacy to then reveal such a private thing, but not just about himself, but to inevitably spark the trail of interest that would lead to your door without even having the good grace to let you know he was doing it.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to live a private life and you want to get out of the limelight and leave the royal family or whatever to live your life as you want to live it, to then sell a book and go on Netflix is kind of going against what you're saying you want. But yeah, I just have
Nobody,
idea.
he didn't call you or
none of his
nobody contacted you to say you're in the book?
No.
The first you knew was a friend WhatsApping you to say, well, this is you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you like, oh my God?
I was, yeah, well, I think I probably used a little bit stronger language. I almost fell off my sofa, but yeah, it was just, you know, and then obviously all the jokes come in about, oh, young stallion and the older lady and...
I mean, some of the language he used there I thought was actually quite disrespectful. It was kind of like, it was all wrong. You were an older woman treating him like a stallion. It was all...
Yeah, I think it's just the way that it's written. You know, the thing wrong about it, we were two friends. It should never have happened. We crossed the line. It was never intentional. There was nothing before, nothing after. I mean, inglorious. It's not really that glorious sleeping with someone in a field behind a pub when you're drunk.
I don't know.
Well, you know.
Have your moments?
Yeah, sometimes.
Would you agree it was inglorious then? Or?
you know, there is nothing glorious about being drunk and then copping off with one of your mates in a field.
I don't know, actually, Sasha.
No.
I did that loads of times when I was young. Always felt pretty glorious in the moment. It was the next morning was the problem.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we all felt.
Let's go back. I want to go back to where it all started, because it's kind of fascinating that you've been a groom at Highgrove, like you said, but you frequented this local pub. So there were 2 pubs in the area. So tell me about the 2 pubs.
Yeah, I mean, we used to drink at the Rattlebone quite a lot, which is obviously mentioned quite a lot. And then we used to go to the Vine Tree, and there was another one, the Cat and
The Vine Tree was the crime scene.
Yep, that's where the crime took place. Yep.
But you would go in these pubs, and it was perfectly normal that Harry and William, in fact, who was in the pub actually on the night in question, but they would both come down as young princes, and they'd hang out with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think... It's like I said before, it was just a group of friends. So it didn't matter if you're a prince, a rider, a groom, a polo player. We were just, like, we had horses in common and we just hung out.
Any other
really
royals
nice.
going there?
Not really. I think Zara may have popped in once or twice, but it was just mainly William and Harry. That was their local.
No sign of Uncle Andrew?
No sign of Uncle Andrew.
Just as well, probably.
Yep.
So the atmosphere was very relaxed, even though they were royals and you were the royal groom or had been, and the others were just local. It didn't really matter what class you were from, what part of society. They didn't care. No one cared.
No. At the end of the day, you can't be a polo player without a groom. Because if you haven't got someone doing your horses, you can't play polo.
Right.
And it's the same.
And pubs,
throughout
I
the
grew up in
horsey
a
world.
pub. Pubs are pretty, you know, egalitarian places. Like anything goes, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter whether you're rich, you're poor, you're this, you're that. It doesn't matter. Everyone just mixes in a pub.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And, you know, I generally look back on my years of teenage and young adulthood of fond memories. I really do. Yeah, good fun, a laugh. You know, luckily it was before any social media and, you know, camera phones.
Well, now it
around.
wouldn't happen probably because there'd be too many phones out.
Yeah.
The royals would, I mean, sad for them, but, you know, you wouldn't better go to a local pub like that probably.
No, and it is, you know, you think he probably did have one of the better times growing up because he isn't growing up with social media. He isn't growing up with a camera phone in his face.
What was he like then? As I said, he was 16, so what was he like?
He was lovely. He was, you know, fun, sparky. He was just one of the boys. He was, you know, he was a lad. And he was good fun to be around.
Yeah, I mean, he was 16, which was just been a few years after, obviously, his mother died in this terrible tragedy. Had you known him in the aftermath of that? Had you spoken to him about
I didn't. I didn't get to know him sort of until a bit later on from that. And to be fair, he never ever sort of spoke about it. He, you know, we just kept it light-hearted. We were just mates. We just talked about polo, horses, going to the pub. Yeah.
And you become sort of quite good friends. What, he would ring up your home?
Yeah.
And he'd text you and stuff?
Yeah, generally. If
Sometimes
you
you ring the
home,
landline and your mum would answer the
She
phone.
would,
It'd be, what did he call himself?
Just Harry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Harry, and then we'd have a chat and then probably arrange to meet up somewhere, go and watch the polo or see what everyone else was doing, see what the plan was.
You make it sound perfectly normal, but how did your mum feel that Prince Harry was ringing her daughter?
I don't know. I think because they knew that we all hung out in a group and it wasn't really a big thing back home. Yeah, I think the first time we did it, she was a bit like, oh, is that Harry? And I was like, yeah. She's like, oh, how funny. And that was about it, really. I mean...
Did you call him H, like his wife does now?
No, only in text messages. Maybe he used to sign off as H, but I just thought that's because he couldn't be bothered to write Harry.
And from what I could gather, a lot of drinking went on in this pub.
Yeah, I mean...
On the night in question, I read that you'd had 10 shots, is that right?
We did between us. It was a bit of a funny night. It was the night before my birthday, so I was actually 18. But, yeah, and... I think...
And you'd had a difficult problem because you'd broken up with this guy and he then rocks up in the pub with his new girlfriend.
Yeah, well, he rocked up and then she rocked up after. And I think when she rocked up, he could sense that I was a bit, oh, that's pretty crap. So he then was like, come on, let's, you know, lighten the mood, have a laugh, you know. Yeah, and like I say, it just...
What were the shots?
I think it was a mixture, if I'm honest. I don't think it was... One was a creamy one, so I assume it was Bailey's.
Bailey's?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, Bailey's shots.
Bailey's, whiskey, Sambuca.
Really? All going down?
Yeah, yeah.
So he was a shoulder to cry on?
He was. I think, I mean, I'm not one for attention, so I just kind of get on with things. But, yeah, I just think that he sensed that, you know, I'd not be OK with that and sort of try just to lighten the mood and have a laugh, change. It's not something he would do on a regular basis. I think he generally was just trying to make me feel...
And he had a birthday card for you.
He did.
Which he'd handwritten.
Yeah.
We've got it here, I think. And it said, Dear Sash, have a very happy birthday and don't get too pissed. Luckily, I'll be there to keep an eye on you. Loads of love, Baz.
Yeah.
Why did he call himself Baz?
I have no idea. But he always used to sign himself off in different ways, H. Baz.
P.S. Thanks for everything. What do you think he meant by that?
Just as friends, really. I don't think there was anything specific behind it. We just talking, chatting, but nothing about anything in particular. I think it was just a nice comment to put in a card.
It was also a toy that he gave you.
It was, yeah.
What was it?
Miss Piggy.
Why?
I think he won it at the Thorpe Park that day and just thought it'd be quite nice to give it to me.
So he won a prize and then just decided to re-gift it?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But that's the relationship it was. There was nothing, I wouldn't even expect a card or a teddy. It was just come and celebrate and have a laugh.
At what moment on that night did things take a turn?
Well...
Because you're great friends, you have been for ages.
Yeah, we snuck out the back for a cigarette. And yeah, just...
Right, hold it there.
OK.
We're going to take a break and come back. I want to leave it on that. Dun, dun, dun. What happens after the cigarettes? Back with more of my exclusive interview with Sasha Walpole after the break. Cliffhanger.
Passionate and always straight to the point. World-class broadcaster Vanessa Feltz is on TalkTV every night of the week. From politics to pop culture, there's no subject she shies away from. And remember,
if you're thinking about it, we're talking about it.
join Vanessa Feltz on TalkTV every day from 4 p.m.
She's the older woman who took Prince Harry's virginity in a field behind a pub. Sasha Walpole kept Harry's secret for 21 years. But then Harry told his truth in his explosive memoir, and that included her. So now it's Sasha's turn to tell her truth. In a global TV exclusive, she'll join me on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and I guarantee the interview will last a little longer than Harry did.
Britain's conversation. Oh no. With the People's Channel. No, already used. Every Little Helps. For God's sake, is nothing original anymore. It's finger-licking good. I'm loving it. Look, let's be honest. We don't have any fancy speechwriters here, but we do, and I promise you, discuss the issues that matter to you. Yes, I'm back. TalkTV, not with Morgan, just before him. Monday to Thursday at 7 p.m. Join me. Just do it. Well, that one too.
Well, welcome back to my exclusive interview with Prince Harry's first lover, Sasha Walpole, who, just to repeat, is only doing this because of him putting it in his book, Spare, all about this night at the pub. So let's cut to the quick. You're having a little crafty fag out the back.
Yep.
What happened? Who makes the move?
He made the move.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even really know why or what happened. We were just having a cigarette, and then before you know it, it was all happening.
What was happening?
Well, he just started kissing me, and then before you know it, it was all going on.
You start kissing. Are you thinking this is weird? Because you've been really good friends. He is Prince Harry.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see him as Prince Harry. I see him as Harry as a friend, and I think that's like quite a big difference. And we were quite drunk. So you just get lost in the moment.
Well, you would be after a load of flaming sambucas and Baileys, yeah.
Yeah, and then you get lost in the moment, and then before you know it, it's, and then you wake up and, well...
We've actually got lost in the middle of the field.
Yeah, well, you get up and then this reality kicks in.
Well, hang on, we're moving a bit too fast here. So you go from smoking out the back of the pub to a field nearby.
Yeah.
Any particular reason, or just...
Just to get out of the way of people, I think, because...
Presumably his security guys were there, right?
Yeah, they were
Where
out
were
the front. They were just in the car park.
Do you want to give them a slip?
Well, I think we had gone over the fence to have a cigarette away from everyone because he wasn't really meant to be smoking. So, yeah, we just hopped over the fence. Seemed like a good idea at the time.
And the next thing, I mean, did you know as you were in flagrante in the field that he was actually a virgin?
No, I didn't. No. I don't know why, but I didn't even think about it because it's never been on my mind before.
When did you find out? I mean, was it only really confirmed by the book?
No, well, I suppose so 100%, but you kind of people talk, and then the next day it was apparent that, it was his first.
You were the chosen one.
I was indeed, yeah.
Does it feel weird talking about this?
It does, because it's just something that happened so long ago, and to me, it's not a big deal. It's one of those things.
It's quite a big deal.
It is in the eyes of people, yeah, I suppose. But like I say, I just seen him as a friend, and if anything, it's just you've overstepped that line with a friend.
The entire collision lasted 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Probably at the higher end of expectation for men of that age, I think, when they lose their virginity. But what happened? Was it awkward afterwards? You went back to the pub, right?
Yeah, we kind of was like, oh, OK. We decided to go separate ways. So he went one way, I went the other, trying to make it look less obvious, but it doesn't really work.
Where were the security guys?
Well, at that point, they had realised that he hadn't come out of the pub because it was closing time. And, they were looking for him and found him down the road, I think.
Did they ask what had been going on?
No, he was kind of taken off and I went home. So
you left your belt in the field?
I did, yeah. I had to go back the next day when I collected my cards to retrieve my belt.
And when you saw your friends, when you got back to the pub, what did you say to them?
Nothing. There was quite a few giggles and they kind of knew what had happened, and I think they probably knew what was going on when the security had started looking for him. But no one really said anything. I think everyone was just a bit like, keep quiet and carry on.
You wake up in the morning, you're presumably quite hungover.
Yep.
And then is there that moment where you suddenly go, oh, God, I've just remembered?
Yeah. Yeah, it's that cringe factor that creeps in and you're like, oh, no, I've well and truly overstepped the mark. What
did you think to do then? I mean, anything? Did you try and contact him?
No, I thought I just need to go and get my car. I probably had to go to work or get ready for work the next day. So I just wanted to get all my stuff. It was my birthday, so I probably had plans that day. Who
did you tell about what had happened?
I told my sister, and I told my mum. And
how did they react?
My friends. OK. They weren't really fazed. My sister laughed. Yeah. Yeah, but they knew him as Harry.
They weren't thinking immediately, royal wedding, the balcony scene, we're on it.
I think we're quite far from the royal wedding. But I think, my sister, she found it quite amusing, quite funny. My mum, she was just like, oh, OK. And, as long as I was safe and happy and not in any trouble.
Did your dad know?
Do you know, I think I brushed the comment over, but he would probably be like, not listening, and it's not something that I'm going to go and make him listen to. I just probably went, I slept with Harry, and wandered off out the door. I was like, I'm not going to sit him down and make him listen to what his 19-year-old daughter had done. I
mean, the weird part of the story for me is that you then have no more contact with Harry at all. Having had this friendship, which then builds to this, thrilling denouement, that's it. You never see or speak to him again.
No, we haven't. There was no messaging, there was nothing. And it was
why,
a little bit weird.
You think?
I think it's because foot and mouth was rife that summer, and I think the social circles, they weren't happening as much because...
The polo wasn't
happening, nothing was happening, everything was grounded, everything was stopped. I had gone off...
So you didn't naturally see each other?
No. In the normal group of people that would have been buzzing for the summer weren't here. And at that point, I then went to a different nightclub. We went over to Oscars at Longleat, and I met my husband there. We got on, and then my social circles moved to a different area.
Did you tell your husband?
I did, yes.
How did he react?
Well, he kind of knew because it was not long after all the pictures came out in 2001, so it was kind of all around the same time. He didn't really care. Yeah, he wasn't fazed.
I mean, it's fascinating to me that this is 21 years ago and that the last you ever see of Prince Harry is immediately after you've just had sex with him.
Yeah, I know, it's strange.
It's sort of random, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I don't know. He was a young boy, so for him it may have been mega awkward. You know, it's two friends that cross the line, and it is always going to be a little bit awkward. But if it's your first time, then you're probably finding it a little bit.
There would have been a lot of people, Sasha, in your position, because you weren't from a wealthy family, right? You've never had huge riches or anything. No. A lot of people might have been tempted to have cashed in on their night of lust with Prince Harry. You never did. Why? Because
he was a friend. He was a friend. I didn't see it like that. You kind of feel protective. Not because of who he is, but I'm like that with all my friends. But yeah, I just never occurred to me.
Never crossed your mind?
No, not really.
But that's a decency that's quite rare, actually, these days.
Yeah, well, some things are just better left unsaid.
I mean, there's an irony, isn't there? There's you being decent and wanting to protect him and his privacy. Yeah. And yet it's only come out because he actually did the complete opposite in the book. Yeah, I know. It's... You go back to the same thing of, you know, if you want privacy, don't write about it, don't speak about it. But I don't know why he put it in his book. Is it hypocritical, do you think? A little bit, yeah. If I'm honest, you know, it's something that he could have, if he had just put, you know, about me losing my virginity and left it at that, it would have been fine because no one would have been none the wiser. It's the fact that he added more to that story that everyone was like, haha, that's you. Right. And then it puts you in that position. So. And it must be, I mean, it's a range of emotions, but one of them, it must be quite intimidating to be on the receiving end of suddenly knowing you're in this book, which is one of the biggest selling books in history. Yeah. And everyone's reading it and the media are getting more and more excited about who this person is. And you know it's you. Yeah. So the clock is ticking to that knock on the door. It is, yeah. And it's like, it's one of those, at first you're in denial. You're like, no, I don't, you know, it's going to be fine. It'll pass over. And like I say, the messages start coming in. Everyone's starting talking about it, which then pretty much doubles, if not triples, the people that know, because then everyone's like, oh, I know who that was. And before you know it, people are asking, you know, family and friends, oh, yeah, we know who it is. And then suddenly it's just the reality of this isn't going to go away. Forever, this is going to flare up. Until they know who it is, they're going to be questioning people. And yes, I could not have said anything, but then it's never going to stop. This is a means to an end. Do you think he should have had the manners, honestly, to just have let you know it was going to be? He could have given me a heads up of, like, you know, I'm going to put it in the book. Even if he didn't ask if it was okay, just at least give me an option of what to do about it. Yeah, pretty much. Let's take another break. I want to come back. I want to get your view. I don't know what you think of the monarchy, of the royal family, of the late, great Queen, King Charles, and what you think about Meghan and Harry now, living this life over in California. What you feel about them. Okay. Because Sasha Walpole, now we want to know your views. We'll be back after the break with more from my exclusive interview.
Passionate and always straight to the point. World-class broadcaster Vanessa Feltz is on TalkTV every night of the week. From politics to pop culture, there's no subject she shies away from. And remember,
if you're thinking about it, we're talking about it.
Join Vanessa Feltz on TalkTV every day from 4 p.m.
She's the older woman who took Prince Harry's virginity in a field behind a pub. Sasha Walpole kept Harry's secret for 21 years. But then Harry told his truth in his explosive memoir, and that included her So now it's Sasha's turn to tell her truth. In a global TV exclusive, she'll join me on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and I guarantee the interview will last a little longer than Harry did.
Leading Britain's conversation. Oh no. With the People's Channel. No, already used. Every little helps. For God's sake, is nothing original anymore. It's finger licking good. I'm loving it. Look, let's be honest. We don't have any fancy speechwriters here, but we do, and I promise you, discuss the issues that matter to you. Yes, I'm back. TalkTV, not with Morgan, just before him. Monday to Thursday at 7 p.m. Join me. Just do it. Well, that one too.
This is TalkTV.
Well, welcome back. Sasha Walpole, who took Prince Harry's virginity, is still with me. Those words, every time you hear them, must be weird, right?
It is weird, yeah.
What did your family make of it when it all blew up in the last, 2 weeks?
They were quite calm, quite sort of, OK, what do
your
you want
mum
to do
knew?
about it?
Your
My
mum
mum knew, my dad didn't. It wasn't until I had a bit of a conversation with him, it became apparent he had no idea what I was on about. And then I spoke to Mum and was a bit like, well, I don't think Dad knows. And she's, I'll just check. And she's like, no, he didn't know, which was really awkward.
I mean, hard for any dad, but then his daughter's all over the front page of the paper for taking Prince Harry's virginity. That's quite a moment to wake up to that.
It is, yeah, especially when you know it's your daughter. At first you're just thinking, oh, well, OK. And then when you realise it's someone you know and love, it's a bit different. But
was he annoyed at Harry for not
No, he
letting
wasn't.
him know?
I mean, they're massively supportive. And their main concern is I'm happy, I'm safe. They said they'll support me either way, whether I was to speak out or whether if I was to keep it a secret. Either way, they would try and do damage limitation and just, be there for me.
Your kids are too young. They're only 5 and 3. But how did your husband react to it all being public?
I think he was as shocked as me. Obviously, he knew about it, so it was no great big secret. But if he didn't know, it would have been probably really awkward. But yeah, I think the fact that he knew, he just kind of laughed and was like, oh, what are we going to do?
It's been an amazing 2 years, really, for the monarchy. Really, since, I think, Prince Philip died and then the Queen died, and we've now got the coronation coming.
Yep.
Are you a big monarchist?
I am, yeah. I do like our royal family, yeah.
What do you make of what's been going on with them?
I think it's sad. I think it's sad with any family, regardless if you're a royal or whoever. As soon as there's a bit of conflict in between family, it's sad. It is sad. I'm lucky. I have a good family, and I have, my sister's amazing, so we're all really close. So I couldn't really imagine how they would feel.
Especially for you. I mean, being in the pub with William and Harry and seeing them young and obviously very close then.
Yeah.
Particularly, probably the closest they'd been was in the aftermath of their mother's death. To see them now completely having this rift and completely apart, that is really sad, I think.
It is, yeah. I mean, I've tried not to follow it too much, but I do feel that, yeah, like I say, with any family, any conflict is sad because life's too short.
Yeah.
Life is
well, if you were in the
short.
pub with them now, what would you say to them?
Life's too short. Just sort out your differences and, just chat. But I probably would never be in the pub with the two of them again.
You never know.
You never know. Maybe
You
one
never
day.
know. I mean, I think Harry owes you a drink.
Yeah, just not a tray of shots.
What do you think of Meghan Markle, his bride? I mean,
again,
you share a lot in common. I mean,
we do, yeah. We both refer him as H. But yeah, I don't know. I
mean, he's gone from a digger to a gold digger.
Yeah, you can put it like that. I don't know. Like I say, I sit on the fence. I don't know the lady. I wish him all the best. I wish him the happiest.
Does he seem happy to you?
He's not the boy that I remember. That's for sure. But again, I'm not in his shoes. I have no idea what's going on in his head. I haven't seen him for 21 years, but, you know, you make your own happiness.
Do you have a view of Meghan?
I don't really, no, because I don't know her, apart from obviously, you know, what you hear or whatever, but I'm one of these people.
Do you think he's traded up from you or down?
Definitely down. I don't know.
By the way, I agree. He should have stayed with someone like you.
Oh, thank you.
He might have been a lot happier, I think.
Yeah, it'd have been funny.
Yeah, what do you think of King Charles with the coronation coming and everything?
I think it's amazing. Yeah.
Did you ever meet him in those days?
Yeah, I did. Obviously, I can't really say too much about it. He did. Yeah. He was a lovely guy. Yeah.
Just to be clear, you signed an NDA having worked as a groom at Highgrove,
I did, yeah.
like everybody who works there, so that's why you can't talk about your employment.
No.
But as a man, how did you find him? Did you were in good hands with him as our monarch?
Yeah. Yeah. Personally, I think he's a lovely guy. Yeah, and I think, same as William, I think, you know, you couldn't ask for anyone nicer, really, but that's my own view, and they treated me really well.
What happens to you now? I mean, you talked about earlier about, you know, going back under your rock. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah, I think this is a means to an end. You know, it's done. I don't have to worry. You know, when it all flares up, everyone knows. It's done, it's dusted. I can go back to living my normal little life, driving my diggers, being happy, and not having to look over my shoulder and opening my door one day and hundreds of cameras being there.
Has that always been slightly in the back of your mind?
It has. I think, as any mother would know, when you have little kids, your protective side comes out, and I think to take control of this, you have to come out and control it, because otherwise one day you're just going to wake up and you're going to have no control, and, you know, it's damage limitation.
Yes, and I think you've limited the damage extremely well, actually.
Yeah, hopefully.
Because you come over just as a decent person.
Yeah.
Who didn't want any of this, had your privacy invaded, again, ironically, by the Prince of Privacy. We just saw a picture of you in the digger. Let's get that back up, because I just don't look at you and think this is someone who drives these monstrous diggers.
Yeah.
You obviously love it.
I do. I mean, I worked as a groom for quite a while, and then obviously the hours and stuff, and Dad has always done groundworks, and he kind of said to me, well, I said to him I didn't know what I want to do anymore, so he said, well, work for me until you know what you want to do. And back then, being a girl on site is a little bit strange. I can remember having to put my hair up and wear a coat. But I love it. And I think that, you know, it's a real opportunity for other females to maybe come and do building work. It is brilliant. It's a great place to be. Yeah. What
does it mean to you to be British? I said a little bit at the start there that to me, someone like you represents like old-fashioned British values.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that you had dignity and decency, you didn't sell your story, you didn't betray this great secret that you could have done at any moment. To me, that's kind of old-fashioned British values.
It is. I mean, I was brought up with, you know, you work hard, you play hard. You know, you don't air your dirty laundry, and, you know, you mind your own business. You don't get involved in something that you don't want to get involved in. And I just think, I think it's just where I've been brought up.
But you're quite looking forward to going back to relative anonymity again?
I am, yes. Yep, I'm quite looking forward to getting back in my digger.
Have you been back in that pub?
No.
Are you going to?
Probably not. No, probably not.
You must have had other friends who knew nothing about this. Who've now picked up the Sun.
Yeah.
And seen you all over the front page and go, what?
Yeah, I mean, it's something I rarely talked about. So obviously moving from where I lived with my parents to where I live now, a lot of my friends wouldn't even know that I knew Harry or, you know, had anything to do with the royal family back then. So for them, it was a great shock when they seen my picture that had flared up when they were trying to find the lady. And I was a little bit like, oh, yeah, that was many moons ago. And then suddenly now it's front page of everything. But do you know what? It's like ripping a plaster off.
Really?
Yeah.
You feel relieved in a way?
It's done. I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry that people are going to turn up at my house and start, you know, asking me questions, and I'm not ready for it. You know, it's done.
If Prince Harry's watching this, maybe in Montecito in his mansion, what would you say to him?
I would say if you're about, hook up, let's have a drink, catch up, chill out. Whatever. Just be happy.
Do you think he even drinks flaming sambucas anymore?
I don't know. Probably not.
Looks like he needs one.
He does, yeah.
Don't you think?
Perhaps I should take him a tray of shots and just let's talk it over.
I actually think he needs a tray of shots.
Yeah.
And he needs a bit of old kind of West Country common sense.
He does, yeah.
Don't you think?
A bit of West Country happiness.
I feel like he needs a bit of straight talking from someone who knew him in his old life.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I haven't seen him for 21 years, and I'd be more than happy to sit down and talk it out, but he probably wouldn't want to know.
What advice would you give him?
Just be happy. Life is too short.
And make up with your
Pick
family.
your battles. Make your... Yeah. Sometimes silence is better than nothing. But yeah, we'll see.
Well, listen, it's been great to meet you.
Yeah.
I didn't even know who you were a week ago. Now we all know who you are.
No, I know.
And
it's all very strange.
you're going to have to live with that. It's a weird thing to have to live with.
It is.
But you've talked about it I think, with great modesty, and I completely understand why you've decided to talk out, because otherwise it just happens anyway, right?
It is. It's either you control it or it controls you. And, this way it leaves everyone else alone. They know who it is. Job done.
Sasha, back to your digger.
Thank you.
It's lovely to meet you.
And you.
And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, after the break, we'll have a reaction to Sasha's interview with my royal pack. So don't go anywhere.
Passionate and always straight to the point. World-class broadcaster Vanessa Feltz is on TalkTV every night of the week. From politics to pop culture, there's no subject she shies away from. And remember,
If you're thinking about it, we're talking about it.
join Vanessa Feltz on TalkTV every day from 4 p.m.
She's the older woman who took Prince Harry's virginity in a field behind a pub. Sasha Walpole kept Harry's secret for 21 years. But then Harry told his truth in his explosive memoir, and that included her. So now it's Sasha's turn to tell her truth. In a global TV exclusive, she'll join me on Piers Morgan Uncensored, and I guarantee the interview will last a little longer than Harry did.
Britain's conversation. Oh no. With the People's Channel. No, already used. Every little helps. For God's sake, is nothing original anymore. It's finger-licking good. I'm loving it. Look, let's be honest. We don't have any fancy speechwriters here, but we do, and I promise you, discuss the issues that matter to you. Yes, I'm back. TalkTV, not with Morgan, just before him. Monday to Thursday at 7 p.m. Join me. Just do it. Well, that one too.
Well, welcome back to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Joining me now to discuss that extraordinary interview is Vanity Fair's Katie Nicholl, the Sun's Matt Wilkinson, and author and historian Dr. Tessa Dunlop. So, Katie Nicholl, I mean, it feels weird to be interviewing a woman about taking someone's virginity.
Yes, I did. There were some good questions in there, Piers.
So let's start with that, right? Because it is a weird interview to be doing at all. But I thought the reason that she has come forward made complete sense to me. And I also felt there was a kind of controlled anger, really, that her privacy, and this is so ironic, had been invaded by Harry without even a thought, really, for the repercussions for her having to be made public and so on. What did you make of it?
Well, I think this is the first time when you got to give Harry some credit, because for me, if he was going to choose anyone to lose his virginity with, what a cracker of a girl.
Yeah.
Because she kept her secret
Yeah.
for all those years.
Yeah.
She was loyal, she was discreet, she's been magnanimous, she's been generous. She didn't have a pop at him.
No.
She says what we're all thinking, which is, how can you be so hypocritical and invade someone else's privacy whilst invading your own? But she did it with such dignity. What a lovely girl. So actually, I think I've got to take my hat off to Prince Harry, because I don't think he could have chosen a better girl to have lost his virginity to.
It is the textbook way to lose your virginity. Way better, incidentally, than all his ancestors who had to vicarious means that they indulged in during World War I and so forth. Much better to have a hearty bonk in a field. I mean, I'm kind of wishing I could go back and redo my own narrative. We're all thinking that is consensual, friendship, bit of alcohol. And as for cutting off the relationship, I mean, does anybody stay in contact with their first shag, Piers? Did you?
For a while. I don't think it was quite as unceremonious as that, yeah.
Really?
But I know what you mean. It is spectacularly awkward for a young man the first time it happens, particularly if it's in that kind of situation. And he probably was just too embarrassed, Matt, probably just to ever think about it again.
Well, he was the first to raise it, of course.
Well, of course, until the book, yeah.
It was amazing that she was just sitting there on tabloid gold for 20-odd years, you know, and it's taken Harry to actually describe this liaison for her actually to, you know, to come forward and
Well,
tell
for
her.
Harry to cash in on it with his book, which has made him millions, to cash in on his virginity and invade the privacy of the woman he had it with. I mean, there's another way of describing it. That's what he's done. It is breathtakingly hypocritical, just from a media perspective.
Yeah, no, it is. And I'll say, if we had got hold of that story 20-odd years ago, we would have had a deluge of legal letters from...
Of course, he'd have been the first squealing about it. Tessa, I know you're in defend him at all costs, Cam, but even you must think it was a bit off.
Yeah, I mean, there are bits of the book that hit some of the wrong notes, given the message he has historically tried to push. But lest we forget, the agency in this narrative, Harry didn't name her, he didn't name the pub, he didn't even describe
He
her
had
beyond
named the
being
pub in other
horsey.
parts
There
of
was
the book.
there was quite a lot of detail in there, Tessa.
Yeah.
I mean, enough
She was getting-
to start a witch
She was
hunt.
getting messages immediately from all the local people at the time who all knew it was her.
Right. And it's quite a tight set, normally a polo lot. They'd all sat on the secret for a very long time. So who is the third party that really pushed this downstream? It is, and I'm sitting next to a tabloid editor. I'm beside a former one, and here we have.
Don't
a
tell me
magazine
it's the
journalist.
media's fault.
It's the media.
Oh,
Well
it's
done,
the media.
Piers.
Oh, well, let's get in there before Prince Harry does, because his default position is always, when in doubt, blame the media.
But let's
we
not...
didn't say that the royal family are racist. The media said that.
And on
Blah,
this
blah,
occasion,
blah.
Harry has actually been the biggest source of royal news over the last 4 or 5 months. He's well, I've not had to do any work. He's just sat there
The
and fed us
biggest
some
royal
amazing
gossip
stories.
in history has turned out to be the one who's bleated the most about privacy. The one who's breached the privacy of the most amount of people when it comes to the royals and all the royal circle. I was with somebody at the weekend who's a good friend of some of the royal family and had been with them. And apparently all Harry's wider circle of old friends, they're just completely open-mouthed that for 20 years they, like Sasha, have gone out of their way to protect him, never giving interviews, hiding stories, protecting him physically on nights, getting him out of clubs and bars when he's in trouble and so on. Only for him to then have all this stuff in the book, talking about taking drugs with people, talking about getting this and that and the other. They're all open-mouthed at what they see. Tessa, this is not me saying it, I would anyway, but what they see is just complete hypocrisy.
I hear you. There's complexities. I think complete hypocrisy in the idea of...
Is it complex, really?
Well, I think it is complex. And I think what was charming about Sasha, and by the way, I think the whole nation is now thinking, why couldn't he have just done the old-fashioned thing and married her?
Yes.
Imagine if she...
But they will. I know my mum will be watching, go, she was a lovely girl. Why couldn't he have married someone like that? Yeah.
If only. But it's not binary. There isn't really a baddie or goodie in this story. In the
Actually,
end,
I don't agree. I don't agree.
There's two consensual teenagers who had sex, and both.
Oh,
of
in this
them
particular story,
yeah,
right?
And both of them have made a bit of money
No, I
out of it
listen,
in
I agree.
the end. It's actually, I think, rather charming. And I know that Sasha felt, because she's a decent stick, my goodness, there's earthquakes and wars, and why are we talking about this? And again, I would have to say that's a media agenda. But actually, it's a bit of light relief. And I refuse to say this is tawdry and uncomfortable. It's actually quite an upbeat story. In a weird way, it's kind of a vindication, a way of being modern and young and carefree.
Well, that's one way of calling a pub bonk.
Well,
Katie
yeah.
Nicholl, I mean, look, I think we're slightly over-egging the defensive souffle there. I think the key charge I would make about Harry with this book is that it goes against everything he himself has railed against the media
I know.
about. It's
and I
that
tell you what
can't
he'll
get
say
past.
to that, because I put this to his camp, and what they say is, but this is on his terms. This is in his words. This is on his terms. This is his chance to answer that. It's that whole reclaiming the narrative story again. And actually, I think most people don't have a problem with it, but they might have a problem with it. Had Sasha not been as generous as she had been, let's just say she had a problem with it. Let's just say it had caused her big problems in her life. Then I think we'd be sitting here saying something very different.
What if she'd never told her husband?
I was when you asked her that question, it was exactly what I was thinking.
Or never told her parents. I mean, what if that had been the case? Harry didn't know.
No.
He had no idea whether she told her husband or not.
Well, he didn't contact her. She said as
He had no way of ever knowing.
He doesn't name her. And it is an inglorious...
No, listen, she had people knocking on her door, Tessa.
OK, but
she had people knocking on her door.
And she could have said, I'm not the older woman, I was only 18, do shut up, it was a quick snort.
No.
I mean, she could...
Her name was being passed to the papers, right? Let's be clear.
The papers, you've named it, the papers.
Well, of course.
Because Harry's argument is, it was like half Zoo, half Truman Show. We were discussing this. And actually, this one innocuous paragraph on his loss of virginity...
It's not innocuous to say, I lost my virginity
has
to
led
this
to
woman.
a Truman Show.
Right.
All of us are talking about a bonk, a teenage bonk.
OK, Matt, I want to bring in just the wider picture. We're heading towards the coronation. And putting aside the virginity story to one thing, I think it exposes the hypocrisy, but I also agree with Tessa that in a way, it doesn't really matter. Sasha seems completely well adjusted by it. She told everyone who needed to know, no one's dead. There are more important things in the world.
You disagree with me?
Almost. But let's talk about the wider story about Harry. As we head towards this coronation, which is coming up fast now. We're only a few weeks away from it. It's going to be a glorious celebration on one level, but we still don't know whether Harry and Meghan are going to be sitting there amongst a family they've spent the last 2 years now trashing on the global stage.
Well, it's the thing. It's got to be the Charles and Camilla show. It can't be the Harry and Meghan circus.
But if they're there, it will be.
But I think they will need reassurances that Harry isn't going to do any more interviews between now and May the 6th.
But what about afterwards with all the information? I mean, this is a guy, remember, the thing that shocked me about the book was not all the trivial stuff at all. It was the fact that even at Prince Philip's funeral, he's revealing intensely private conversations with William and Charles to the world against their wishes. Well, they didn't know nothing about this. They'd have definitely said no. And yet he expects to be at the coronation, from what I've read, sitting amongst them again, having conversations. How would they trust him? I wouldn't trust a family member in that situation.
It's interesting because I take up with Tessa on here because although Sasha has come out and told her story, but there's plenty of other people like William, like Charles, like Cressida, his ex-girlfriend. I think he's speaking about other people in this book that haven't come out and spoken. Like William hasn't come out and defended himself, been able to defend himself against things.
Or his wife.
Or
against it. I mean, and also, what about that poor matron? I mean, I really did feel for her, actually, Tessa, because we don't even know if that matron at his prep school is alive or dead, or whether she's got family who are around who may have read this. But it was so hurtful, the way he talked about that matron. And so, again, I come back to the hypocrisy. This is a guy portraying himself as this be-kind feminist, basically taking down a defenceless matron for her looks. Really, I mean, it was unpleasant, wasn't it, Kate?
Yeah, it was unkind. It was unkind and it was
misogynist,
unnecessary.
Actually.
Yeah, and you know, we're sort of seeing the new look feminist Harry, and that is really quite.
Is he going to be at the coronation or not? Do you think?
Look, I think he has to be. I mean, I've said this to you before because I think there has to be that. I think there has to be that united front.
But as I said to you before, and I'll say it to Tess as well, just because Charles may feel obliged to invite him because it's his son, and he feels guilty probably about what's gone on before with him and Camilla and Diana and so on.
It's his coronation, Piers.
Yes, but hang on. But that's the key point. It's not just Charles's coronation. It's not a private family event. It's a publicly funded event, and actually it's the people's coronation of their king. And that's where I have a problem. As one of the subjects, right, of this monarch,
it goes back in history books.
I don't want to see these two money grabbers anywhere near it.
But you are a subject with a very loud voice. You have a big platform, and there are
coming
plenty
from you,
of
I might add, not exactly a shrinking violet.
And there are plenty of other subjects in this what should be a broad-shouldered, impartial monarchy.
Yeah, but you know,
who
Tessa,
want to see
I know,
them
but
there,
Tessa,
not
you
with
know,
a big role,
no,
but
Tessa,
there.
yeah, but you know as well as I do, if they turn up at this thing, it's all going to be about Meghan and Harry.
It depends
Only
on, I
if
think
the
it depends
press
on how it's
make it
handled.
about
Whereas if
Meghan
they're
and
not
Harry.
there and they stay in California, actually focus goes to
Now,
to
Matt
Charles
will
and
agree
Camilla.
with me here.
I wouldn't put
It'll be
Matt.
the press, won't it, that make Harry
Well, do you know
and
what? We'll
Meghan
go back
centre
over the things
stage.
then. So when he came back for the Duke of Edinburgh's
Yeah.
funeral, we know he didn't behave himself very well because he had an argument with his father and his brother, you know, just hours after the funeral. He came back for the Jubilee, he was put on the side, and he basically behaved himself and stayed away. And then at the funeral, he was on good behaviour. So if they can follow that blueprint,
Yeah.
then maybe
If
be
they
a
just down to
success.
the
But
palace
Charles
and how
won't
they
want to
handle it,
appear
actually.
childish. He won't want to appear churlish
Yeah.
by
No,
not.
but he
He
does
has
have
to
to
be the bigger
remember
man.
that he has to remember that actually it is the people's coronation of their king, right? It's not a private family event. And I think a lot of British people will share my view that they shouldn't be there. Sorry, you trash your family that badly, that egregiously, and you trash the monarchy and you damage it. All the poll ratings for all the royals have been taken a heavy dent in America, which is a key place for the monarchy for its future, all taken a hit because of his book.
And you've just answered your own question. If you want to reach outside of Britain's borders, they've got to be there. How's it going to play to America? Oh, we're not inviting the House of Montecito. It would make us look so mealy-mouthed.
The House
there.
of Montecito.
I just said that to annoy you.
Do me. Well, all right, you've succeeded, the House of bloody Montecito.
It's going to... Listen, I think if he's not there, it will overshadow the event. And I think, you know, maybe there will be a neat compromise. Let's not forget I think it's Archie's 4th birthday. On that day, it'd be a very neat solution for Meghan to stay at home with the children, perhaps not be there. And I think it perhaps be more palatable for people if it's just Harry.
It will not overshadow it because it didn't overshadow the Jubilee, the funeral.
It didn't, yeah.
Funeral.
No,
It's
but I've
very
got a
carefully
feeling
managed.
this time it could do because of the book and the Netflix series.
Hey,
It's all
what I
taken
want to
into a
know
high
is
level.
Sasha Walpole going to get a front row
Well, you know
seat
what?
to the
I would invite Sasha Walpole.
Yeah.
But also, can we just end on a positive note? What a wonderful lady Sasha Walpole
Yeah,
is.
Sasha. You know,
The
full
old,
credit.
what I call salt of the earth
Yep.
British.
So thank you, Harry, for introducing us to
And
Sasha.
Exactly.
Harry chose well.
Thank you, Pat. I appreciate it. And Matt, thank you, Lucky Stars. I didn't ask you where you lost your virginity. I was tempted.
I did in the green room.
Still waiting.
We've had that conversation.
Good to see you. That's it from me. Next week there'll be a special guest or two in my seat as I'm off interviewing criminals. I'm back on February the 20th from New York City with some big guests there. So whatever you're up to, keep it uncensored. Good night.
Passionate and always straight to the point. World-class broadcaster Vanessa Feltz is on TalkTV every night of the week. From politics to pop culture, there's no subject she shies away from. And remember,
If you're thinking about it, we're talking about it.
join Vanessa Feltz on TalkTV every day from 4 p.m.
Well, she's the older woman who took Prince Harry's virginity in a field behind a pub. Sasha Walpole kept Harry secret for 21 years. But then Harry told his truth in his explosive memoir, and that included her. So now it's Sasha's turn to tell her truth. In a global TV exclusive, she'll join me on Piers